Whoa, there's a lot of people. Oh man, all right. So,
Just imagine this name.
yeah. Saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving, hysterical, naked. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeremy Winslow, and today we'll be talking about Allen Ginsberg, more specifically his poem Howl. So, with that, a howl within Ginsberg writing nakedly honest. And no, I mean, I know he was naked in that first book, but that wasn't the point. So, my thesis is Allen Ginsberg through Howl challenges the status quo of what a poem is, what the subject matter of the poem can be, and how the poem can affect the reader. More specifically, today we're going to be touching on the last bit of my presentation, or my thesis, which is how the poem can affect the reader. So I pose a question based off of my thesis: how can the poem affect the reader? More specifically, honing in a little closer, we're going to talk about the shocking content within the poem. Little side note, I'm picking one of the more obscene lines in Howl, so fair warning. So, why Allen Ginsberg? Well, besides my interest in Ginsberg, I mean, I've read all of his poems and watched like several films. He's sort of the spokesman for the counterculture. If Jack Kerouac was looked at as the king of the beats, then I would say that Allen Ginsberg is sort of the voice of the beats. He's really the individual that is out there speaking to everyone. Jack Kerouac didn't really want to be seen in the limelight, so Ginsberg was the one who kind of took charge of that. So with that, why Howl? Howl really progressed individuality and creative expression. It was written in 1955, so there were a lot of, I guess you could say, negative things happening. The civil rights movement didn't exactly happen yet. The women's rights movement, though it sort of ended in the 20s, was continuing to happen, so women were still being treated incorrectly. You couldn't be black, you couldn't be a woman, you couldn't be gay. So Ginsberg was really allowing everyone to be themselves truthfully, wholeheartedly, and just honestly. He was just writing honestly and speaking honestly. So like I said, listeners, let your discretion advised, be prepared. So the line that I chose is, who let themselves be fucked in the ass by saintly motorcyclists and screamed with joy. Now before we pick this complicated line apart, it would help to have a couple of quotes that Ginsberg states. So the first one is, as soon as I can find it, there we go. So the first one is from a book called Deliberate Prose. It's some selected essays that Ginsberg has. It reads, Ginsberg says that good poetry is either visual clarity, melodic rondure, which is sort of graceful curving or sort of roundness, or language play that is exuberant, obviously, bursting with vitality, and amusing, plus some sense of grounded seriousness and emotion, which usually is manifested in the sight, sound, or intellect of the work, and is ultimately the sense that the author is purposing to relieve the mass of human suffering. So he's saying that to him, good poetry is one of those three things: visual clarity, melodic rondure, or language play, and grounded seriousness and emotion. It can't just be visual clarity, and it can't just be grounded seriousness. It has to be both. He also says what his poetry does, which reads, my poetry recollects a vivid moment after it happens, rather than inventing or cogitating, pondering, thinking, meditating over anything or trying to cook anything up. I am the stenographer for my mind, writing what comes naturally. So he just sees something, sees a car crash, and he's like, oh, look at that, gotta write it down. So he pulls out his notebook, his handy-dandy notebook, and jots it down. So he's not in his office, in his room, sitting there long nights, maybe like Ernest Hemingway drinking some Jack or something, trying to come up with a story. He has it down, and he's just creating it naturally, just what comes naturally. So going back to this line here, obviously he was gay, so he has had anal sex. So that's why I fucked in the ass. Skipping over the motorcyclist part, a lot of people would think that anal sex is horrific, heinous, absolutely abhorrent. But to him, being a homosexual man, or man who has had a lot of homosexual sex, obviously, screamed with joy. He finds it fascinating. He finds it enjoyable. It is his true self. So instead of screaming with pain, he's screaming with joy, with happiness. Saintly motorcyclists could be looked at as the burly dudes on the Harley Davidsons with their hands way up here, leather jackets with studs and all that wonderful stuff. But it could be assumed that saintly motorcyclists are maybe just homosexual people, just honest, gay being homosexually gay or gay being happy, just individual men, just regular people. So, given those two quotes, he's just writing the things that are natural to him, what seems natural. It is natural for us to love another person, whether that be a woman or a man or transgender or what have you. It's all natural to him. So, in conclusion, Ginsberg says in the first line of his poem, America, America, I've given you all, and now I'm nothing. And I think that's a very fitting quote for Ginsberg because he has given us the ability to be ourselves. He's allowed us to write freely, to speak freely, to think freely. And I personally think if it weren't for Ginsberg and for him writing at the time that he was, we wouldn't be the way we are, I guess. Thank you for being here.